300 guests watched as Jelani slowly rolled Zob's empty wheelchair onto the stage and crowned his mistress queen of the night. What none of them realized, not Jelani, not his calculating mother, not the woman draped in pearls that didn't belong to her, was that the hospital where Zob lay recovering owned every single building on that block, including this one. The rooftop shimmered in gold. Black and gold fabric cascaded from every corner, wrapping the entire space in a kind of artificial elegance that felt almost too perfect. Hundreds of candles flickered across the tables, their flames dancing like they were in on some secret. A live jazz band played low and smooth in the corner, like background music to a film no one knew they were part of. 300 guests filled the room. Colleagues from Jelani's marketing firm, family friends who had known the couple for years, church members who had once brought food to hospital rooms, neighbors who waved politely on Sunday mornings. Everyone dressed to impress. Everyone convinced they were there to honor something real. Massive screens lined the walls, displaying a slideshow of smiling faces, warm memories, graduations, holidays, a life that looked picture-perfect. But if you paid close attention, really paid attention, you'd notice something unsettling. Not a single photo included Zob. Jelani stood at the center of it all. Tall, polished, too polished, clean-shaven in a tailored black suit, a gold pocket square perfectly matching the decor he had chosen himself. He moved through the crowd like a man who had practiced grief in front of a mirror. His handshake was firm, intentional, designed to make you feel his strength. His hugs lingered just long enough to feel sincere. Every nod, every sigh, carefully measured. His mother, Lorraine, stood near the front row in a cream dress she had bought on credit just days earlier. She dabbed at eyes that weren't even wet, playing the grieving mother-in-law so convincingly that even the pastor's wife reached over to comfort her. Then Jelani took the microphone. The room quieted instantly, like a congregation waiting for a sermon. He cleared his throat and began, his voice low and controlled. He spoke about sacrifice, about how the past year had tested him in ways no man should ever endure. He talked about sleepless nights, hospital visits, prayers that felt like they went nowhere, about loving someone who was slowly fading, about standing tall when everything inside you is collapsing. The audience leaned in. Women wiped their eyes. Men squeezed their wives' shoulders. Someone in the second row whispered, "That man is a soldier." And then he did something that made the entire room freeze. He stepped aside and rolled out a wheelchair. Not just any wheelchair. Zob's. The same one she used every day. The worn armrests. The small leather pouch on the side where she kept her grandmother's folded letter. Every detail unmistakable. He placed it under a single golden spotlight and lowered his head like he was standing over a grave. "My wife is in the hospital tonight," he said, his voice cracking just enough to feel real, but not enough to lose control. "She's fighting alone, because that's who she is." Then he looked up. "I ask all of you to bow your heads and pray for her." 300 heads bowed. Silence swallowed the room. Somewhere in the back, someone began humming a slow, mournful hymn. It vibrated through the air, heavy and emotional. It lasted maybe 30 seconds. Then everything changed. The music flipped, suddenly upbeat, almost celebratory. The kind of music that felt wrong, like laughter at a funeral. Jelani's face shifted. The grief vanished, peeling away like a mask under heat. In its place, a wide, almost hungry grin. "But tonight," he said brightly, "we celebrate the woman who kept me standing when I couldn't stand on my own." A side door opened, and Tiffany walked in. 6 feet of carefully constructed confidence, wrapped in a red gown that clung to her like it had been painted on. Her hair fell in soft waves over one shoulder. Her heels struck the floor with sharp, deliberate clicks, like a countdown to something explosive. And around her neck, the pearls. Zob's pearls. Her grandmother's pearls. The same ones placed around her neck on graduation day. Pearls that carried generations of struggle, survival, legacy. Lorraine had taken them that very morning from Zob's hospital room, while pretending to adjust her pillow. Now she walked onto the stage and pinned a gold corsage onto Tiffany like she was welcoming a new bride into the family. Jelani pulled Tiffany close, wrapped his arm around her waist, and kissed her right there in front of everyone. The crowd erupted. Applause. Cheers. Glasses raised. No hesitation. No questions. Lorraine leaned toward a woman beside her, smiling sweetly as she whispered something bitter enough to rot the air. That crippled girl was never enough for my son. This one? She said, glancing at Tiffany. This is the upgrade. 6 floors below that glittering rooftop, in a medical complex connected to the same building. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. Zob lay in her hospital bed. Machines beeped steadily beside her. The fluorescent light above hummed softly. A thin blanket covered her legs that hadn't moved in 10 years. A nurse came in, adjusted her pillow, and gently asked if she needed anything. Zob shook her head. Her eyes stayed fixed on the ceiling, like she was reading something no one else could see. Because she already knew. Her assistant, Cole, had found the invitation earlier that day, tucked neatly inside Jelani's jacket. He showed it to her. She stared at it for a long time, then simply closed her eyes. No tears, no anger, no scene, just silence. What no one on that rooftop knew. Not Jelani, not Lorraine, not Tiffany, not a single one of those celebrating guests, was that Zob wasn't helpless. She was powerful. She owned that hospital. She built MedBridge health systems from nothing. From a single piece of software into one of the largest black-owned healthcare tech companies in the world. She owned the building they were partying in. She owned the security system quietly recording every kiss, every lie, every betrayal. Her company operated in 43 states and 7 countries. Her net worth? $72 billion. And she built it all, while her husband thought she was just collecting disability checks and playing on her laptop. 12 years before that rooftop, before the betrayal, before the pearls, before the performance, there was a small brick house in Annapolis, Maryland. The kind with a creaky porch and a kitchen that always smelled like cinnamon and bay leaves. A backyard where roses bloomed stubbornly, no matter the season. That's where Zob was raised. After losing her parents in a house fire at just 4 years old, she was taken in by her grandmother, Nell. Nell wasn't loud, but she didn't need to be. Her presence alone could fill a room. She ironed church clothes every Saturday night, kept handwritten scripture taped to the bathroom mirror, worked 31 years at a linen factory without missing a shift. Every extra dollar she saved went into a coffee tin under the sink, so Zob could have a future. The world will try to make you small, baby, she used to say while stirring cornbread at the stove. Don't you let it. You were born to take up space. Zob was quiet, but extraordinary. She read encyclopedias for fun, fixed a neighbor's VCR at 9, built her first website at 13, graduated top of her class in biomedical engineering from Howard University. The day she walked across that stage, Nell sat in the 3rd row, hands folded, pride written all over her face, even as a single tear slipped free. After the ceremony, away from the noise, Nell pulled her aside, reached into her worn leather purse, and took out a pearl necklace. The pearls weren't new. They weren't flawless either. A jeweler might have dismissed them in seconds, some slightly uneven, one with a tiny chip near the clasp. But those pearls had survived more than most diamonds ever could. These were on your great-grandmother's neck while she picked cotton in Carolina, Nell said softly, her voice low but unshakable. She held them like they were sacred, like prayer beads passed through generations. They survived her hands, your grandmother's tears, mine. She looked Zob straight in the eye. Now they belong to you. Wear them when you forget who you are and where you come from. That same summer, Zob met Jelani. He had that kind of presence, the kind that pulls people in before they even realize it. Tall, confident, always speaking like he was already halfway to success. He worked in marketing, talked endlessly about starting his own agency, quoted business books he barely understood with the confidence of someone who thought he wrote them. And somehow, he made Zob laugh. Not polite laughter, real laughter, the kind she hadn't felt since she was a child. She fell fast. Hard. The way people do when they finally feel seen. But Nell saw something else. One warm evening, sitting on the porch as Jelani's taillights faded into the distance, Nell rocked gently in her chair and spoke, not directly to Zob, but like she was speaking to truth itself. "That man talks about what he wants to be," she said quietly. "You already are what he's chasing." Zob just smiled, kissed her grandmother's forehead, and brushed it off as worry. She did understand then that Nell had spent 60 years watching men wear ambition like cologne, strong at first, but gone by morning. They married the following spring. Small ceremony. Community center. Nell sat front row in her best dress. Zob wore the pearls. And Jelani? He looked like a man who had just won something. They moved into a modest apartment in Baltimore. 2 bedrooms. A clanking radiator. A neighbor's dog that barked at shadows all night. That's where it started. Zob set up a second-hand laptop on the kitchen table and began building something no one around her could even imagine. A platform. One that could connect rural hospitals to specialists using AI-driven diagnostics, bridging the gap between underserved communities and life-saving care. It was ambitious, risky, revolutionary, and she attacked it like her life depended on it. 18-hour days. Sometimes she forgot to eat. Sleep became optional. Her fingers moved across the keyboard like she was writing her way into the future. Jelani would come home, glance at her laptop, toss his keys on the counter, and say, "You're always on that thing. What are you even doing?" He never waited for an answer. Not once. 2 years into the marriage, everything changed. Zob was driving back from medical tech conference in Virginia when a delivery truck ran a red light. The impact crushed the driver's side. She was trapped for 40 minutes. Surgery lasted 9 hours. When she woke up, the room smelled like antiseptic and something heavier. Final. The doctors didn't sugarcoat it. The spinal damage was severe. Permanent. She might never walk again. She was 24, married, and suddenly living a completely different life than the one she had planned that morning. Jelani cried that first night, held her hand, promised everything, loyalty, strength, forever. Then he vanished. 2 weeks. No calls, no visits, nothing. When he came back, he smelled different, like another place, another life, and he couldn't even look her in the eyes. 3 days later, Lorraine called. She thought she was speaking quietly, but her voice carried straight through the phone speaker, straight into Zob's chest. "You didn't sign up for this, baby," she said. "No man should be chained to a broken woman. God wouldn't want that for you." That should have shattered her, but it didn't, because something deeper held, something Nell had planted years ago, through quiet lessons, hard work, and words spoken over cornbread and porch swings. Something stubborn, unbreakable. Zob didn't collapse. From her wheelchair, in that same small apartment with the clanking radiator, she finished her software. 3 patents. 6 months. She pitched her platform to a hospital system over video because she couldn't afford to travel. They said yes. Then another said yes. Then 12 more. And just like that, it wasn't an idea anymore. It was a business, a growing one. With Cole, her childhood friend from Annapolis, now her assistant, protector, and the only person she fully trusted, she built everything quietly, carefully, through layers of holding companies under her maiden name. Not because she was hiding, but because no one ever asked, not even her husband. In 10 years of marriage, Jelani never once sat across from her and said, "What are you working on?" Not once. Eventually, she stopped waiting. Nell passed away on a quiet Tuesday morning in October. Peacefully, in her sleep, in that same old brick house. Zob sat there for a long time, holding the pearls against her chest. Then she found the letter, folded neatly in Nell's jewelry box, written in that familiar blue ink. "When the storm passes, you'll still be standing, even if you're sitting down." Zob folded it carefully and placed it in the pouch on her wheelchair. It stayed there, every day, through everything. Years passed, not marked by joy, but by survival. And while the world wasn't looking, Zob built an empire, quietly, strategically, like something growing in the dark. While Jelani believed they were surviving on his modest salary and disability checks, Zob was acquiring hospitals, funding AI startups, sitting in high-level meetings through secure video calls, making decisions that affected millions, all while he sat in the next room, watching sports and complaining about bills. MedBridge Health Systems became massive. So massive that Fortune magazine ran a feature calling its founder the invisible billionaire. No photos, no interviews, no identity, just a shadow behind a $72 billion empire. Zob read that article from a hospital room she owned in a building her company built, and smiled, because invisible was exactly how the people closest to her had always treated her. Jelani met Tiffany at a marketing conference in Atlanta. And Tiffany? She was the complete opposite of Zob, and she made sure everyone knew it. Loud, flashy, always performing, wearing designer labels she couldn't afford, posting pictures of luxury that wasn't hers, talking about herself like she was narrating a documentary. But she was sharp, calculating, and she saw Jelani for exactly what he was, a man carrying guilt. And guilt made men easy to control. The affair didn't grow slowly. It exploded. Within weeks, Tiffany had her own apartment, paid for by Jelani using money he quietly skimmed from the household account. Money that, ironically, came from Zob. He was funding his mistress with his wife's empire. Lorraine didn't just accept it. She encouraged it, visited Tiffany, brought food, gave advice, sat in her kitchen like she had finally found the daughter-in-law she actually wanted. "Tiffany can give me grandchildren," she'd say over Sunday dinners. "She can stand beside you, not sit behind you like some burden." And just like that, Zob was no longer a wife in their eyes. She was an inconvenience, a past they were trying to replace. Jelani started coming home later, then barely at all. When he did, he smelled like Tiffany's perfume and didn't even bother to hide it. Didn't shower, didn't apologize, just climbed into bed beside the woman he had already betrayed, as if she couldn't feel it that he stopped helping Zob with even the simplest things. The morning transfers from bed to wheelchair, reaching items on high shelves, picking up her medication. Small acts that once felt routine now felt intentional in their absence. One Tuesday night, long past midnight, Zob tried to make it to the bathroom on her own. The front wall caught the edge of a rug. The chair tipped. She hit the floor hard, shoulder first, then her head. A sharp crack, then silence. She lay there for 40 minutes, not screaming, not calling for help, just staring at the ceiling, breathing through the pain, through the loneliness, through the bitter irony of lying helpless on the cold tile floor of a house she could afford to buy 1,000 times over. Cole found her. After a missed check-in call, he used his key, rushed inside, and froze when he saw her on the bathroom floor. He didn't say a word, just lifted her gently back into her chair. But his hands were shaking. His eyes were red. "Leave him," Cole said finally. Not advice, not a suggestion, a plea. "You have more money than that man will ever see in 10 lifetimes. You've built something that's changing the world. Why are you still here?" Zob looked at him, tired but not broken. "He'll see the truth when it's time," she said quietly. But time was running out. Lorraine wasn't satisfied with the affair anymore. She wanted Zob erased, completely. She began calling relatives across 3 states, spreading whispers like poison. Zob was unstable, depressed, losing her mind. Said she talked to herself, refused medication, was becoming dangerous. Then she pushed further. Power of attorney, legal control. She wanted ownership over a woman whose wealth could buy her entire neighborhood without blinking. A lawyer took the case, started digging, and then stopped. What he found made him reread the screen 3 times. Then he called Cole. One call to MedBridge Legal, and within 48 hours, everything vanished. No filing, no record, no trace, like it never happened. But Tiffany? She wasn't patient. She was done being the secret. One night, sitting across from Jelani with a glass of wine in her hand, she leaned in with calculated calm. "Then stop hiding," she said. "Throw a party. Make it public. Make it your rebirth." That idea became the rooftop event. 3 weeks of planning, 300 guests, black and gold everything. A carefully edited slideshow, courtesy of Lorraine, that erased Zob from existence. Tiffany chose the menu, the music, the dress. And on the morning of the party, Lorraine made her move. She walked into Zob's hospital room carrying yellow flowers and a smile that didn't belong on a human face. Small talk, weather, nurses, nothing important. Then, when Zob's eyes closed under the weight of medication, Lorraine opened the nightstand drawer and took the pearls. That evening, in a private dressing room behind the rooftop stage, she draped them around Tiffany's neck. "Welcome to the family, baby." Zob noticed they were gone during Cole's visit. Her hand reached into the drawer automatically like it always did, just to feel them, just to feel Nell. Empty. She checked again, then again. Nothing. Her hand froze. No screaming, no anger, no chaos. But for the first time in years, she cried. Not for Jelani, not for the marriage. For Nell, for the hands that picked cotton, for the woman who worked 31 years without complaint, for the quiet strength that built her. Those pearls had survived generations, only to be stolen by someone who never earned the right to touch them. She let herself cry for exactly 5 minutes. Then she stopped, wiped her face, reached for her phone, dialed Cole. 2 words. It's time. 1 week later, a heavy envelope arrived at Jelani's office. Cream cardstock, gold embossing, an invitation, the MedBridge Health Systems annual gala. Black tie, a $2 billion AI initiative unveiling. The kind of event everyone important had been talking about for weeks. The kind of room where power lived. Tiffany's eyes lit up the second she saw it. "This is where real money is," she said, already imagining her entrance. "We need to be there." Lorraine insisted on going too, dressed in her finest, wearing borrowed confidence like it belonged to her. When they arrived, the rooftop party looked like a joke. This was something else entirely. Crystal chandeliers stretched across massive ceilings. Giant screens displayed global impact. Hospitals built, lives saved, systems changed. A string quartet played near the entrance. Politicians, CEOs, journalists, all in one room. This wasn't a party. It was a coronation. Jelani adjusted his tie, trying to look like he belonged. Tiffany scanned the room, hunting for opportunity. Lorraine sat front row like she had earned the seat. Then the lights dimmed. Silence rolled through the hall. A distinguished host stepped onto the stage and began to speak. He called the founder a visionary, a revolutionary, a woman who built her first prototype on a kitchen table, filed patents from a hospital bed, and turned one idea into a $72 billion empire. Then he said something that made Jelani freeze mid-sip. A woman who built all of this while the world overlooked her. A side door opened. The spotlight shifted, and Zob entered, in a wheelchair, wearing a simple black dress. No diamonds, no gold, just one thing. The pearls, back where they belonged. Cole had retrieved them 2 days earlier, quietly, efficiently, from Tiffany's apartment. Zob moved forward with calm precision. No anger, no need for revenge, just certainty, like someone who had already won. Jelani's glass slipped from his hand and shattered across the marble floor. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Every head turned, then snapped back to the stage. Tiffany gripped his arm so tightly it hurt. Lorraine couldn't speak, couldn't move. Zob reached center stage, adjusted the microphone, looked out at hundreds of faces and cameras capturing every second. And then she spoke. Calm, steady, controlled. No performance, no theatrics, just truth. She told them everything. The accident at 24, the diagnosis, the nights alone, the night she lay on a bathroom floor for 40 minutes because the man who promised to love her couldn't even answer his phone. She told them about the software, built at a kitchen table while her husband complained about the cable bill like it mattered more than her dreams. She told them about filing patents from a hospital bed between rounds of physical therapy while the man sleeping in the next room told people she did nothing all day. She told them everything. The rooftop party, the 300 guests, the performance, the moment he rolled her empty wheelchair onto a stage and turned her life into theater. The mistress who wore her grandmother's pearls, dancing under gold lights, 6 floors above the hospital, where Zob lay recovering from spinal surgery. The mother-in-law who stole those same pearls from her nightstand, while she was sedated, connected to machines, fighting to heal. And then, the screens behind her changed. Documents appeared. Property deeds. Holding company records. The building where the rooftop party happened, owned by Medbridge. The hospital, hers. Then the footage started playing. Every screen in the room lit up. Jelani rolling the wheelchair into the spotlight. Tiffany smiling, twirling, showing off stolen pearls like they were earned. Lorraine leaning in, whispering venom about the crippled girl. Every lie, every kiss, every betrayal. Exposed. 500 people watched in stunned silence. Not the polite kind. Not the kind you wait through. The kind that suffocates a room. Some cover their mouths. Others shook their heads. A woman in the third row broke down, crying into her napkin. Zob turned her gaze toward Jelani. He sat frozen, pale, hands gripping his knees like he was trying not to fall apart. She didn't point, didn't shout. "You threw a celebration for your mistress in a building I built," she said calmly. "You celebrated your freedom 6 floors above a hospital I founded." Her voice didn't rise, but somehow it hit harder. "You used my wheelchair as a prop while I was recovering from surgery in my own hospital." She paused, let the silence press in. "You never asked me what I was working on. Not once. In 12 years. Then she turned to Tiffany. Tiffany's composure cracked, mascara streaking, hands trembling. "You wanted to be queen for one night," Zob said softly. "I've been building a kingdom for a decade." Then Lorraine, shrunken, silent, small. "You took my grandmother's pearls from my nightstand while I was connected to machines," Zob said. "Carry that memory for the rest of your life." Finally, Jelani, a long, heavy moment passed between them. And then, almost too quietly, "That's not betrayal, Jelani. That's blindness." A breath. "And I'm done being invisible." The room exploded. 500 people rose to their feet. Not polite applause, something louder. Raw, emotional, almost angry in its admiration. Cameras flashed like lightning. But Zob didn't smile, didn't wave, didn't stay. She turned her wheelchair and left the stage with the same quiet strength she had carried for 12 years. Cole was waiting, a glass of water in his hand, pride in his eyes. She took a sip. "Sit down. Take me home." And just like that, it was over. Or rather, it was just beginning. The fallout hit fast, ruthless. Within 48 hours, the gala footage was everywhere. News channels, social media, podcasts, clips looped endlessly. Jelani and the wheelchair, Lorraine and her whispers, Tiffany and the pearls. The internet tore them apart. Outrage flooded every comment section. Hashtags trended for days. Jelani became a symbol, not of success, but of failure. A man who lost everything without even realizing what he had. His company fired him within a week. Medbridge was their biggest client. There was no saving him. He applied everywhere. 14 companies in a month. Nothing. Not one callback. His name had become a warning. Don't be this man. Tiffany didn't stick around to watch the damage. By morning, she was gone. Apartment empty. Phone disconnected. Social media wiped clean. She had done the math. Zob's billions versus Jelani's nothing. And chose survival over loyalty. She had never loved him. Only what she thought he could give her. And when that illusion shattered, she disappeared. Lorraine's fall was slower, but heavier. The footage of her stealing the pearls leaked. Her hand in the drawer, her eyes checking the door. It spread through church groups and family chats like wildfire. People stopped calling, stopped sitting near her. Her own sister cut her off. "You stole from a woman in a hospital bed," she said. "You stole from the dead. I don't have a sister who does that." And just like that, she was alone. Jelani tried to reach Zob. Calls unanswered. Messages blocked. He went to the hospital 3 times. Each time, security escorted him out. Calm, professional, unmoved. He sat in his car for hours, staring at the glass tower his wife had built, and he had never once questioned. He wrote letters. Long, desperate apologies. Too late. Always too late. The divorce papers arrived quietly. Clean. Precise. Final. Zob asked for nothing. because she never needed anything from him. Jelani signed them in a small, empty apartment. Thin walls. A window facing a dumpster. He stared at his name on the page and finally understood. Not what he lost, but how easily he gave it away. Months passed. The noise faded. The world moved on. But Zob never needed the world's attention. She only needed the truth to breathe. And now had. She returned to Annapolis. To the brick house. Nell's house. She restored it, carefully. The porch, the kitchen, the garden. Roses blooming again like nothing had ever been broken. Inside, everything stayed the same. The scripture on the mirror. The scent of cinnamon. The quiet presence of a life that built her. She moved through those rooms slowly, touching memories. At the window, in the kitchen, in the silence. She took out the letter again. Worn out, soft at the folds, still written in blue ink. When the storm passes, you'll still be standing, even if you're sitting down. She placed it back, then wheeled into the garden. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in gold and violet. Real gold, not the kind you hang from ceilings. She closed her eyes, breathed in the roses, the air, the memory of Nell. And for the first time in years, there was nothing heavy inside her. No pain, no pressure, no ghost pulling at her chest. Just peace. The kind that doesn't come from revenge. The kind that comes from freedom. That spring, she launched the Nell Foundation, supporting healthcare access and technology training for disabled women of color. MedBridge expanded even further. The AI initiative began, saving lives across the country. But none of that was what healed her. What healed her was simpler. The house, the garden, the letter, the pearls, resting exactly where they belonged. And the quiet truth that she didn't survive by tearing anything down. She survived by building forward, one line at a time. The final image is simple. Zob in the garden, pearls glowing softly at her collarbone, sunset brushing her face in gold, hands resting calmly in her lap. Still in the same wheelchair the world pitted, the same one her husband turned into a prop, but now a throne. She wasn't standing. She didn't need to. She had become something greater than that. And somewhere across the city, in a small apartment with nothing worth looking at, Jelani sat alone, staring at the empty space where his life used to be. Finally understanding the cost of never asking the woman he married a simple question. And remember this, silence isn't weakness. Patience isn't surrender. Because sometimes the person sitting down is the one holding everything.